spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty.
This powerful scene happens when Lady Macbeth receives a letter from her husband and reads it, learning that King Duncan will soon arrive. But while reading, she concludes that her husband still has hesitations about whether he should betray and kill the king. This fact enrages Lady Macbeth, sending her to the brink of despair. She can't count on her husband. Macbeth is not ambitious enough to overcome his caution and loyalty, and isn't ruthless enough to fulfill his plan without any moral dilemmas. Unlike him, Lady Macbeth is devoted to the goal of becoming a queen fully. This speech reflects her blinding desire to rule and determination. She is ready to give up her conscience, her humanity, her very soul to achieve her goal. Lady Macbeth herself feels the bad omens that follow the appearance of King Duncan. The raven, the symbol of death and doom, is a metaphor of all the misfortunes that await Macbeth and his wife for what they are going to do: kill the king. Something in her says that their plan is a big mistake. It's the point of no return that will have the horrifying consequences. Moreover, despite being infuriated by her husband's hesitations, she isn't completely sure herself. Lady Macbeth understands that they are going to do something hideous from God's and people's points of view. So she goes to the next step. If her plan can't be approved by either God or man, she asks for help to the evil spirits. So, what spirits does Lady Macbeth call? They are not the ignorant spirits of nature. They are clearly spirits interested in humanity, in the thoughts of people. Moreover, to help in such a deed, these spirits should have clearly malevolent intentions. This phrase shows the devotion of Lady Macbeth. She is willingly offering herself for possession, just to be sure that the plan will be done. The king is protected by the divine power, for his reign is blessed by the Church. So God himself protects Duncan. To pierce this protection, Lady Macbeth seems to address her pleas to the servants of God's direct opponent, Satan, transferring Satan's rebellion against God, his vanity and desire for power, to the earthly conflict between Duncan and herself. Why does Lady Macbeth ask to unsex her, to strip her of her physical sex? She doesn't need the power of courage, but she sees her sex as the main obstacle. Women were seen as cunning, but weak and fragile, prone to temptation. A woman would more likely be responsible for poisoning, adultery, treason, or even murdering someone in rage, but this is not the case. Lady Macbeth needs to be as cold and calculating as it is possible. These qualities were considered masculine. Men were thought to be ruthless killers who could prepare a plan and proceed to it step by step. But still, the husband of Lady Macbeth is hesitating. She considers herself in charge, and before this great responsibility, she wants to get rid of her feminine weaknesses, but also not to become like her husband. She doesn't follow him like an obedient wife. She is now the leader and she seeks support from someone who can disrupt the average order. As an embodiment of evil, not a woman, she has the right to argue with her husband, scold him, and even force him to act. Also, the prefix "un" in unsex is extremely common in Macbeth. Both Macbeth and his wife use it frequently, as if they desperately wanted to undo so many things in their lives. In this quote, Lady Macbeth regrets that she was born a woman, and maybe that she can't take the crown by herself and for herself alone. She is limited, and only someone above the human state of order can lift her above her femininity. She asks to fill her right after unsexing. She is associating herself with her female sex so much that without it she needs to be filled with something else. And how? From the crown to the toe. Not from the head, but from the crown. Lady Macbeth's desire for power is so great that she addresses her crown as the part of her body, something that belongs to her naturally. This line tells us a lot about the character and her obsession with power. She is ready to become an empty vessel, stripped of any personal qualities, possessed by the evil spirits. But the only thing she wants to preserve and thinks of is her crown. She doesn't want to be a woman, but a queen in her own rights. This, and not her husband's raising status, is her main goal. Lady Macbeth prays to become the new ruler, not the wife of the ruler. Finally, we see what exactly lacks this dreadful lady. She lacks cruelty. This is the final piece of the puzzle. The antonyms to cruelty are compassion or kindness. These traits were considered very feminine. In the times of Shakespeare, this, along with chastity and modesty, was the defining trait of a woman. Lack of compassion was considered a deviation for a woman. Lady Macbeth also defines her through this essence of femininity. As a woman, she lacks cruelty, needed to betray and kill her guest and meet the consequences. She also lacked cruelty to use her husband more like an inanimate tool, manipulating him and pressing his vulnerable points. We don't know if she loves Macbeth, but her love would also be taken from her as her feminine quality. Moreover, she wants the direst cruelty inside her soul. She wants to be the most cruel, the most ruthless, not just cruel enough to conduct the plan. Lady Macbeth doesn't want to leave any space for something else. There is only one thing she wants to be fulfilled with. This tells us a lot, foreshadowing the latter events. If Lady Macbeth rules the land, using her husband with direst cruelty, the rebellion and the hatred towards Macbeth are inevitable. This image, portrayed in a short quote, makes Lady Macbeth an iconic example of an evil queen that is exploited in mythology and fairy tales. The woman refusing to behave like one is an enemy one can't predict, so it is common to suppose she is possessed with a demon or is a demonic being herself. For the medieval audience, this brilliant monologue of Lady Macbeth is the point of no return, her moral event horizon that clearly defines her as the character beyond any redemption.